I'm going to tell a story about my own life that hopefully will illustrate why peace building is so important to me. Hi, my name is Dan Kahn. I'm the executive co-director of the Florida Restorative Justice Association, and I'm also a volunteer staff member at the Community Connections Restorative Justice Program in Tallahassee, Florida. And for about 8 years, I was the national field coordinator for the Peace Alliance. I was one of 8 kids. I was the 7th of 8 children in my family. So I was kind of a toddler, and this was in the early 1970s. My siblings, some of them had long hair, and I was kind of the hippie generation, more or less, the original hippies. Meanwhile, my dad was pretty conservative for the most part, a real strong believer in the American dream and in capitalism, anti-communism, and kind of a cheerleader for America. So that was a little bit of the ingredients of why there was a lot of conflict, a fair amount of conflict in my family when I was growing up. Another part of that recipe was that I think my dad had a pretty strong tendency towards hard judgments and hard analysis in approaching me and approaching situations. I think of peace building as including everything from the very personal, like how do I regard myself and how do I talk to myself, to how do people deal with international disputes. So my story is that I went to law school trying to do some good in the world. I aimed to practice in the area of international human rights law or work in that area, although I really saw some of my talents more lying in the area of writing. And I wanted to learn about the world of international human rights from a legal perspective to give me more of a foundation to be an effective writer, an effective advocate. And my focus was Native American law. But before I found that focus, I spent the summer of my first year of law school in Israel. I went to summer school in Jerusalem at Hebrew University, and I was learning about the history of the Arab-Israeli conflict, and I was learning about human rights issues within that conflict. It was pretty strenuous. It was a rich experience, but it was also fairly stressful. So I came back to Oregon, back to my second year of law school, and during my second year of law school, strange thing happened. There was a series of anti-Semitic messages that were posted publicly around the law school. There were 11 of them in total, one every few days over the course of about a month. And right around that time, there was a horrible incident in Israel. I'm in law school back in Oregon, but I'm listening to the radio and I hear about this incident where a Jewish settler in the occupied territories has walked into a mosque in Hebron with a machine gun and shot a lot of people, killed people, wounded other people. It was horrific to hear about. I cried in my car on the way to school. I was walking into class right behind 2 of the Jewish students that I had been talking with recently about these anti-Semitic postings. What I heard was something about what this incident in Hebron might do for Jewish public relations or for Jewish strategic advantage for Israeli public relations. I was shocked. I was kind of stunned and appalled. There's plenty I could say about what makes law school difficult. And then there's also what I walked into it with. So I have my own internal dialogue and internal monologue that's full of different kinds of judgments and criticisms, and hopefully is less so now than it was then. But I think at that point I was very vulnerable to the possibility of being overly anxious and overly critical. I had a heightened level of anxiety that led to intermittent extreme depression, more or less an emotional breakdown. I had lost hope that our histories of war and violence could be shifted. And I had lost hope that I had the capacity to do anything about it. I gradually recovered from that. I was able to finish out my semester. I was able to engage in a summer internship working in Native American law, and that was a real gift to me. While I found different kinds of work during and after law school, still this piece of it, how can we cross the bridge of hostility that tends to exist in human relations, that tremendous challenge that I think is going to be in every area of human pursuit, whether we're trying to devise an energy strategy or trying to address climate change or trying to deal with interreligious differences of opinion, how we are able to see each other and care about each other and hear each other and take care of ourselves in that context with the inner dialogue that we've inherited around judgment and criticism and blame. Those tools are what I was looking for, what I was missing. That whole realm from the individual to the global is something that can be treated and addressed through the world of peace building. Thanks for listening. Best wishes to all of you.